Hi, everybody, and welcome to our very final event for Emerge 2020. We're going to have what I think is a conversation that I'm actually really the most excited about today, is a fireside chat with David Thodey. Now, David is sort of Mr. Innovation and Tech, if I can say that. He is currently the chair of CSIRO, Xero and Tyro, but he's formerly of Telstra and IBM. He's also has roles on Ramsay Healthcare and Vodafone International. He is chairing Tech Central's advisory panel and a host of other things that if I was to sit here and list out all of his accomplishments and the things that he's done, I think that would take up the entire time that we have in conversation together. But one sort of little fun fact and personal anecdote, because I always do like to sort of, when I know our panelists and our people that we're going to chat to, I always do like to share something, is I think it's very, very true to say that David has an incredible personal passion for innovation and technology, particularly where it makes a difference in the lives of people and planet and how it can actually have an impact that can change the lives of people exponentially. So not just tech for tech's sake, but tech for something really good that has impact on the world. And I think it's something that is really near and dear to my heart too. And I've enjoyed all of those conversations with David. So hopefully we'll get under the hood a little bit today in that conversation. Welcome, David. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Sally Ann. Great to see you too. And it's great to see the background there too. It's wonderful.
Look, and it's live. It's actually not a Zoom backdrop this time.
It's really good.
Yeah, look at the building's still full, even though we're a week out from the Christmas holidays.
Amazing.
Lots to do. You know, we had one company announce a raise of 25 million yesterday, so the work must press on. Ooh. So, yeah. So, David, look, let's get into it because you've got some great thoughts in this space about deep tech and innovation and science and engineering and what the future and the opportunity is for Australia. You've been involved in the space for decades. True fact, fun fact.
True.
What gets you so excited about this space? I've heard you talk passionately about this, but what is it that really gets you excited, and why do you keep committing to so many organizations doing crazy things with science and engineering, trying to solve big problems?
Probably I'm just crazy. Anyway, hey, Sally Ann, firstly, I mean, it's just so exciting. Cicada is such a great group, and you support so many wonderful companies. It's just wonderful. So congratulations, 20 years old. That is just really cool. Anyway, yeah, come back to me. Yeah, look, as you know, I mean, I started when I left school, I had a STEM background, but I actually did a degree in anthropology and English. So I sort of did a complete 180-degree turn. And then it was those days when IBM was sort of the tech company, and I ended up joining IBM, and they trained me as an engineer, as a systems engineer. And I think from even back, what was that, the late 70s, early 80s, I mean, I've always seen this incredible opportunity for technology to really, as you were saying before, impact people's lives or change the way we do things. And I also became engrossed in the technology itself, but it's always been for me, what it was doing, what it could create, be it in business or with people with disabilities, social communities, whatever. And that's really driven me. And I still, whenever I get an opportunity to talk to people or listen to people who've got a new idea, I just feel that sense of excitement and opportunity, and it does drive me. And the wonderfully capable, intelligent people that are involved in doing so much in this area. So that's been that. And then the other part, I mean, which wasn't so prevalent in the 80s and 90s, but now we see this whole digital enablement of really the world. I mean, you've heard all the stories, but I mean, I can't think of an industry that's not impacted now. And we're still, maybe 25, 30% of the way through that digital enablement. So I get excited about that, and I see, both the disruption aspect, but this incredible opportunity to do things differently and to be creative and innovative. And that's sort of the same, but a bit different. And it all comes from this, deep research, science, tech sort of, enablement. And yeah, that's what keeps me going. And I never get tired of it.
I love it. And I'm really thankful that you don't get tired of it because we need you. You said something else too that I just want to give a big shout out to anybody who is joining us live today or who watches this afterwards. But there's hope for you if you do an arts degree. So STEM can still be in your future. You just have to find the company that's gonna invite you in. And I just, can I ask you a follow up on that, David? Because I think you might be interested in this. How do you feel the merging of those two things, both your STEM training, which is, more at IBM, and your arts degrees? How do you see those play out in actually driving innovation? Because I have thoughts on this, but it's always good from the guru in the room.
Well, I'll say something as long as you give me your thoughts as well. Okay. Look, I've actually found it really helpful in my career, because at the end of the day, everything we do is about people. Everything. We work with people in technology or science with people. Sometimes you do some, individual work, but it's about how you work as a team, and then how you impact some aspect of our community or society or the world. And that's why, we now use terms like TAM and all the rest, in business sense, but at the real essence is around people. And I did social anthropology, which was the study of cultures and the dynamics of how people interact and how we collectively work together to create something bigger than we do individually. And I think that's a really important aspect of leadership. It's about enabling others around you to really perform to their very best, but also collectively to do something that you couldn't have done individually. So yeah, I think it really did help me. I'm a bit of a convert to the US education system. I think doing an undergrad degree, which is a bit more broad, and then specializing, maybe it's a bit of a bit more difficult these days. But I think if we can, take that sort of broad talent and then you specialize more as you get older, and then it's funny, isn't it? You specialize, and then as you get older, you sort of branch out and you become a generalist. Yeah. So what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say pretty much the same thing, because my research degree was in international relations and cultural anthropology and cultural studies as well. So I really see the benefit to what you're talking about. And I really look at, systems theory from a computer science perspective, from a biology perspective, and from a human systems perspective. There's a real interconnectedness in how those theories work and operate. And when we're talking about deep tech and the impact for Australia and the opportunity for Australia, it does take a team, as you say, and it takes a multidisciplinary team and a team that has the ability to learn and grow and experiment and try and challenge. So I think it's a really good segue actually into my next questions, is about the deep tech opportunity for Australia. How big is it really? Can we really fundamentally change our economic base to have a deep tech really thriving and a large contributor as economy? And what would it take us to get there?
Yeah, well, there's two parts, answer that. Yes, we can, and also we must, is really the bottom line. And remember, there's been waves over many years of, the tech sector, going back to Button, and even the multifunction polis we're going to set up in Adelaide to become an innovation tech hub for the region. So we've always had this sort of aspiration, but the truth is that when you look at the numbers, the tech sector represents 5% of GDP, employs about 5 to 6% of the total workforce. Most European countries, this is not even talking Silicon Valley, but most European countries, it's about 8-9% of GDP, and about maybe getting close to 10% of the population. So we under-index in terms of the tech sector. Now, that's different to technology enabling every industry, because that's a slightly different set of numbers you look at. So I think that we've got a great opportunity to do that. There's no lack of skills or capability. There's a little bit of situational reality. I mean, we have been very good at mining and agriculture. And whenever people talk to me about this, I say, well, look, it's actually very sensible things we did. We invested in those wonderful industries, and we got a very good return in terms of economics and also quality of life, but it's no longer enough going forward. So it's an imperative. We've got to build this third, leg to the chair, so we really can be strong in this tech innovation area. So the second part of the question is, what do we need to do? Well, unfortunately, there isn't a silver bullet. Your report said it. And we all know it. It's a whole lot of things we've got to do. We've got to, in education, we've got to make sure the teachers are talking about how exciting it is, what a great career it is. And today, that many of our teachers are struggling. It's not seen as a place to be. And then as you get into universities, how we make it a really exciting course, and then funding, early stage funding, venture capital funding. We need governments to talk about it. So it's not all up to governments. We've got to step forward. We need leaders to set up and talk about what the possibilities are. Yes, look, I'd love to think the government throwing another 10, 20 billion at it would be great, but they're not going to do it. So we can keep asking, but the truth is that they're going to look for outcomes. So let's just, do what we do really well, and you watch. It's like in running a business. If you do what you do really well, people just come because they say, I want to be a part of that. So that's why, what you're doing and what others are doing is so important. So we've got to keep talking about how everybody's doing well. Universities, the venture capital. Square Peg just raised another, a few $100 million, and now they're at 1.2. But we want Airtree to be good. We want to keep the angels going. So it's a wide spectrum. So we can maybe talk a bit more about it. But all those companies there at your place are just doing great.
Yeah. It's really good to hear you say that. I think the deep tech sector, it's hard, right? We're talking about fundamental science and engineering that is really hard because the problems that they're trying to solve by the very nature are hard. And if they would be solved because we've got smart people in this country. So this long time frame and this kind of really, it's not just a collaboration in the team, it's a collaboration across the ecosystem of all of those parts being strengthened in equal measure. We're only as strong as our weakest part, our weakest
That's
link.
right.
So which part is our weakest link? I think that's a really interesting one to explore. So thinking about that, what do you think our weakest link is that maybe we should be focusing on? What are the opportunities or the gaps that we could be doubling down and doing a little bit more effort over here and a little bit more effort over here that you think might really contribute in some of those?
Yeah. Well, look, the weakest link as of this month, probably the last couple of years, is skills and people. I don't know. I'm sure that you've got the same challenges there, but all the companies involved, we're just struggling to hire, people with the right skills. And it's mainly digital skills, but it's also, people who may have been scientists, maybe in the research area, but can bring that digital enablement with them. And at the moment, it is, there's a lot of, wages are going up, which is great, by the way, it's because of the competition. But we just are really lacking. I think across Xero and CSIRO, we're probably trying to hire about 200, 300 people just now, so, and I'm sure it's the same in many of the companies got there. So I think that's the immediate challenge. And, it's interesting, going back to my IBM story and your story too, it was interesting when I joined IBM, I had to go through all these IQ tests, all the normal things, like when you're joining Google, but not as sophisticated as that. But they were companies that invested in taking what they thought was some potential, in my case, not much, but they worked hard at me, and then sort of pulling us through. And I think that we've got to look outside of our, the sort of the computer science or science, health areas and look at other people. Now, we've had some great success with hiring, young lawyers who have got great analytical minds and then enabling them with some digital skills. So I think we're going to have to start to look at that, as well as still addressing all the STEM challenges in schools and the gender diversity and things like that. But, you know, we're just going to keep making this really, you know, well, it is really exciting. Just talking about it's enough, you know, to get us going. Yeah.
I love it. It's so interesting because I literally had that conversation with one of our companies, with one of our founders on the stairs yesterday when I was leaving, about skills and capabilities and, you know, how the year's wrapping up. And they were just talking about, they said, look, I just want to show you our promotions list from internally. And the thing that she was saying to me was, and, you know, and it was Ali from SpeedX, and she's just fabulous. Right. But, you know, one of the things she was saying, she's like, look at this one. This one was my PhD student, and this one was my PhD student. And she's actually saying, you know, how they've invested over years to grow these people through, and they're coming through into senior ranks. And part of that was an investment, a little bit, I guess, like the situation that we're in right now with COVID and massive economic disruption. Part of it was out of necessity. There was a burning platform. They had a need for people to come in and work in the labs and do research, and they couldn't necessarily hire people with the skill set that they were looking at or with the seniority that they needed at that point in time. And so they've taken that long-term view, much like the technology market, and growing them. And it's certainly, you know, the case in my journey at Google, where it was so hard to hire our first product manager. I remember we searched for 5 years locally, and then we finally just went, we're just going to grow them. We're just going to grow everything from scratch because it's just too hard. And graduates are a great investment. And actually, when you model it out economically, the investment over time to get to that point is probably about the same. So
I really agree. I think it is. Yeah. And because you get at a grade level or postgrad, and there's that sense of belonging, and, you know, they invest a lot of time in the company. Yeah, so we need to keep doing it. It's a really good story, you know, because the more we do that, the better. Look, I mean, we've got to keep working right along that value chain. But look, the more we can promote each other and talk around the incredible things, you know, that people are doing, and making it, and people will see it and say, wow, that's something I want to be a part of. And so I think that there's a real onus. And as you know, one of the challenges that we're always scored low on by OECD and all these reports around, you know, lack of collaboration, which we all get a bit tired of. But the truth is, we don't get people moving between sectors much. And so, you know, even, you know, researchers in university working in the commercial area and vice versa, or in government. And so I think we do score lowly there, and we need to encourage people to move around a bit and to appreciate the different perspectives. And so some systems, you know, they get in the way on that area, but we need to do more of it, because it just creates this sort of great appreciation of the different skills you need.
Yeah, and it also brings great diversity of thought into different organizations as well, and background. You mentioned what we score high and low at. So one of the things that we always score high at is our research capability. We are really good at publishing in top tier journals and papers, and exceptional in many, many, many disciplines, actually. Like it's actually, we punch above our weight, I think it's fair to say, in our capabilities. Commercialization, however, translation of said research on lots of metrics, we don't appear to be doing so well. What's your view on this? And what do you think, you know, is that a fair stat? Is it a fair metric? Are we not there? Is it just that we don't talk about it? We don't know about it? What do we need to do about that? Because brilliant minds, brilliant ideas, brilliant research.
Yeah. Well, look, all the studies do indicate that we could do better at commercialization, because I'm not sure that we're failing. And as you point out, and as we talk, we've got lots of good examples, but there's not a broad enough set of examples. And we need to really encourage a far broader base of you know, groups stepping out on the commercialization process. But I do think we've got to remember that if you create an environment where you're enabling from, you know, deep capability in science or technology, the commercialization thing just happens because you're creating value that others appreciate. Now, because commercialization, well, yeah, I'm sure that there's some researchers who think commercialization is a bit of a dirty word. You know, I'm doing my research and it's pure, and I'm not sullied by the pursuit of money. Now, there is a community like that, but the truth is that everything we do makes a difference in life. And the way we recognize that is through often a financial outcome or a social outcome or an environmental outcome. All those are valid, and we need to have the funding to do that. So I think that that's what I would encourage us to do. Now, the other thing around commercialization, as you would know, it's actually really tough. It's not just money. I mean, if you talk to any startup, yes, I need the money, but actually what you need is mentoring. How do I structure the organization? How do I attract people? What do we need to be doing now? Should we be working with this partner or not? So there's a lot of other things that you need as you build a company besides money. And so I think we've got to understand that and develop it. I mean, even at CSIRO, who, has been, sits at it's sort of that, joining point between great science and making a difference. Yeah, we have a group. I don't know how big the group is. It'd be probably 60 people. We have, we've got IP registration. We've got 7 paths of commercialization from, just project-based all the way through to main sequence ventures and taking equity. But we do, royalty deals. We do, JVs, all this. So you've got to have a whole arsenal that enables others, and you need people who are really specialized at it to work with great founders to help them sort of navigate the way through. By the way, even though I'm involved in the venture capital world, VC can be the worst thing for a startup sometimes, as because it puts all this onus on you. And it's a bit like being on the board of a listed company. It's not all what it's cracked out to be. Stay private as long as you can. So I think they are the things we need to focus in on, and we need more working together of industry with the universities. And look, we'll make mistakes, and we just to keep working at that, because there is enormous capability going that we have. So I'm not sure I answered the question, but I felt good about the answer.
Look, I think there was some real nuggets in there around the fact that actually commercialization in itself is a skill. Taking something from science and engineering and productizing it, it's a whole different skill set, and it's not always researchers, and it's not always industry, matching up and going, who are those people that are really skilled in that? And exactly. A really long journey. If we're talking about medtech, that's another 10, 15 years. And then the regulatory pathway, and the people that sit there and they do all of the regulations and the testing and get the X level of paperwork for your clinical trials done.
That's right. So, or working with TGA, it's a pain. And also, even registering IP. I think we have 7 or 8 people just registering IP and then keeping it, maintaining it, and then making sure you're driving value from it. So the whole IP process is, incredibly involved.
And I think that's a really interesting skill set to explore, is how do we build up capacity in that system? Also, more successful people come through and exit their company and reinvest or grow their business and grow their team, and so that talent starts to recycle into the industry. I know we're seeing it in the tech sector now, from engineers leaving Google, and we've had some Atlassian, and so people that have been long term in those places. We're not sort of now recycling ourselves out into the ecosystem, but in the deep tech sector, we're still a little bit early to see some of that high level sort of experienced talent yet.
Yeah, no, I agree, Sally Ann, but I think you're right. We are seeing people doing the second or third, startup or new idea, and they've come and look. That's why these international companies are great. Google's invested enormously, Facebook to a degree, but Google more than probably any of them, because they had that big software engineering group, as you know. But we need more of that. So we've got to keep, plugging into the international landscape, but at the same time building our own version of it. So we don't need to copy others. We just need to be enabled by. But I really agree with you. So long may it continue. That's my view.
That's great. So I've got probably just 1 or 2 more questions before we will get into our showcase event and turn over to our founders. But if you look across the portfolio of research and development, really early stage stuff that you're exposed to, and you're exposed to a lot, more than the average person, probably even more than me, definitely more than me. What are the things what are the companies or what are the ideas or the nascent technologies or things that get you really excited, and why?
Right. Well, I mean, I do get to see an enormous amount from, from the team that are doing the mapping of the 3 kilometres of, down crust of Australia through to the square kilometre array, mapping the origins of the universe, through to the things around the more immediate, the goodness around food security, energy and hydrogen, which, has become pretty popular talk, but there's a lot going on there, through to, solving, some of the big problems. The thing that I'd probably say more than anything else, I'll come into a little bit about technology, but I do, it's like with a startup, you've got to be really clear about what problem you're solving. And, in the old, we all get taught our elevator pitch, but the articulation of, because that's what drives real innovation, taking, these really complex problems, like, a CRISPR was an example of trying to look at gene editing. It's got lots of pluses and minuses, but they're trying to look at how to improve humanity. So you've got to be really clear. And so the greatest innovation we find coming from there, I'm seeing some incredible innovation coming out of the Great Barrier Reef. All that pain that's going through there with the marine side, the bleaching. The marine scientists up there are doing incredible work about, growing whole new species of coral that can survive, which is all to do with incredibly complex gene editing. So that's what really drives me. I mean, drought management, water management, hydrology, it's all those areas that are really real. And I think it's really important that we keep focused on that, because yes, I like pure science and I like pure technology, but it's solving problems that make a difference. But look, I mean, in terms of the technology, I do get excited. I mean, I'm a, back in the old tech stack, I still work through the stack, and but the areas that I'm most excited about is machine-human interface. Coming back to that, I think it's just going enormously, which is starting to see intelligent infrastructure and how we interact with our environment. And of course, the thing that is really always interested me in science and technology, in a way, the ultimate is to emulate nature. When you think about it, if we could harness photosynthesis, we wouldn't have an energy problem. The more we get to understand the neural workings of our brain, the better we will be with creating, ethically, hopefully, intelligent, devices. So I'm really excited about that. And then, of course, you go back down to quantum computing, but even quantum is starting to get to how we manage qubits. I mean, that's incredible, really, when you think about it. And as you know, qubits don't like being managed, and they do these random things and entropy and all this stuff. So it's so that's what really gets me going. But again, a lot of people said that Moore's law is slowing. I'm not convinced of that. I am seeing incredible technology innovation, both at the physical hardware layer, but of course it's moved into software. But you're going to need those sort of keep working in harmony to really drive. And then, look, my passion more than anything else is healthcare, and I think health is creating a healthier Australia and us all having better quality of life is such a great ideal. But the health industry is so complicated and so many different things, but so much innovation. So they are the things that I'm seeing and I get involved in. But I could keep going, but.
I think it's really great though, because this is where your passion and your energy shines through. Each one that you sort of talk through, you can see it's like, oh, and then there's this, but wait, there's more, but wait, there's more. And that's one of those wonderful things that we need to do, right? It's one of the reasons we need to have these conversations and talk about what's happening in CSIRO and the universities and Cicada. And we all need to talk about each other's stories to really get people involved. And I think to tell the problem, to talk about the problems.
What is the problem we're solving?
Exactly. And 2020 has been the year of science. And I feel like the year of ability to get cut through in the general population, because all of a sudden we've all been affected by something. And we've all been desperately seeking answers and to understand science in a way that maybe we haven't thought about before, because we don't necessarily think about it because it hasn't impacted everybody. If you, as my final question to you when we get into the showcase, if you could have one message to everybody that's watching this now and everybody that will watch this later about what to do to get engaged with deep tech and the opportunity in Australia, what would you tell them to do?
Well, what do I tell them to do? Well, first of all, I just spend time talking to people, but I would say this is an amazing industry. I mean, they're creative, deep domain excellence, it's challenging. I mean, what a wonderful career to have, to be able to work in the sector. But you've got to go and, because a lot of it is about finding people you relate to. And so you've got to step out and give it a go. So I would encourage people to do that. And then to listen to the people that, like you've got at Cicada. I was listening to Jamila the other day on TEDx, woman of the world, I mean, isn't that a great story, and talking and making sure you put yourself in a situation where you can hear these stories that you're talking about, because they inspire us all, and that's why we need each other, because we all go through times thinking, oh, gee, this is all too hard. But by engaging with each other and creating this community, I think that's what you need to do. So that's what I'd say, and celebrate each other's success. Work through the tough times, because it is tough. No one's saying this is easy at all, but you need resilience and perseverance, and then a little bit of help, you can do wonderful things. So it's great. That's what I'd say.
Well, thank you. You've told us all how to be inspired, but I just want to thank you personally for being an inspiration to us. To myself personally, I think every time I talk with you, I go away energized and hopeful. And I think going away hopeful is actually a really good thing to do, because there's a lot of opportunity out there for us to come together and collaborate and to actually solve the challenges that people are facing, that we are facing. And that collective impact is really true. So I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I know you have a very crazy schedule today and a very busy impact day, but I just thank you for this conversation. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for the work that you do across so many sectors. I think it's incredibly important and incredibly valuable. And, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, you continue to go above and beyond. And you've done that throughout your career and continue to do that going forward. And thank you for the contribution that you're making to the work that is happening in Australia and beyond, because we need people to continue to put their shoulder to the effort. And I just want to acknowledge and thank you for all that you have done and are doing and will do. David, it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Sally, and that's really kind of you to say that. I enjoy it, but it's the people I work with that make all the difference. And you're on Tech Central board as well, advisory board, so lots to do there, which we can talk about maybe another time. But
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank David for his contributions today, for his wisdom and insight. It's always a privilege to get some time with him and to sit down and have a conversation. And so I hope that has encouraged and inspired you to find out more about what's actually happening in the deep tech sector right across Australia, because it really is truly incredible. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful and safe Christmas and New Year.